All right. Hello, everybody. We are making some guns today. We have a gun. Oh, gotta delete a few things. We have a gun in our program currently, and we have targets to shoot at. So, we're just gonna make it so that we can have not just a single kind of gun, but multiple kind of guns that are selectable in the future. We want to make a structure to produce a variety of guns that differ in certain ways. The bullet hell genre of game is all about having a variety of guns. Usually you start with a small gun that fires slowly, one bullet at a time, and it's really hard, and it motivates you to go get new guns that are better, and they might come as a power up that an enemy drops as you kill it, or maybe when you get it to a certain score, you just automatically upgrade your gun or something like that. But in order to make all that possible, to have this kind of variety of guns that are different in interesting ways, we're going to have to make ourselves a gun class. And we're going to be starting with that right away. Before we go and see the gun class, what I'd like to do is just sort of show you the change that's going to happen in the Starfighter class. So our Starfighter is going to get a gun. So it's going to be a variable of type gun, and we're going to call it my gun. Doesn't really matter what you call it, it's your choice, but my gun makes sense. And in the constructor, we're going to choose what is our default gun, and you're going to have a whole bunch of different gun classes. So I'm going to call the intro one, I'll call it basic gun, but you can call your guns whatever you want to have eventually. So this is going to be another class. Oop, I forgot the new keyword. We're going to instantiate a basic gun. So these are some classes we're going to write. Gun, basic gun, not done yet, going to come up. I know you're kind of underlined in red right now in your code. Don't worry. Here, this is going to change, so we're no longer going to be just adding bullets to the screen. We're going to have the gun class do that, and that way the gun class can manage things like rate of fire and bullet spreads and patterns and such. So we're going to change this to mygun.shoot. And that's going to be a behavior function that we're going to add to gun class. So that's another list of things to do. One last thing is that our guns are going to have to recharge their cooldowns. So we're going to add in mygun.recharge. It's going to be a function we're going to write that just takes care of the the rate of fire recharge feature. If you're familiar with video games that have abilities that have cooldowns, then this is the function that's going to have that cooldown recharge until you can reach a certain threshold to do it again. So those are the things we got to do. So let's go make ourselves a gun class that has a shoot function and a recharge function. And then after that, we're going to extend the gun class to make a basic gun. And then we'll make a few others just for fun, and you guys can take it over from there. So I have a tab for the gun class. This is going to be another abstract class. We're not going to actually make anything called a gun. Gun is a category. And you'll notice that we're not extending GameObject. So GameObject is the usual type of thing we extend. Gives us an XOI, VX, VUI, all that good stuff. But the gun doesn't need any of that information. So we're just going to borrow the player's information for where the gun is located. However, you might be like, oh, how are we going to add this gun to the game? Usually things get added to that list. It's all good. It's all good because the Starfighter is added to the game engine in that list, and the Starfighter manages the gun. So this is an interesting thing that Starfighter is now becoming almost like an ecosystem of objects. Now it has a gun. We can add in other objects to it as well. It's an object that contains objects. And that's a pretty sophisticated thing, so pat yourself on the shoulder for making a composite class like this. Anyways, we better get started with making our gun. Guns are going to have two variables. They're just ints. We're going to have a cooldown and a threshold. So what are these? So a cooldown is going to be keeping track of how long it's been since we last fired. And threshold will be how long does it take before we can shoot again. So it's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around that if you haven't played games with cooldowns. But threshold is basically how long does it take to recharge. Cooldown again is how much time have we spent recharging so far. So we'll make ourselves a constructor because we have to, but this class isn't really going to construct much. And we are going to have in here, as we said, a void recharge and a void shoot. So what does recharge do? So recharge is just going to increase cooldown until we get to threshold. So we'll say if cooldown is less than threshold, we are going to increase cooldown. I'll just write cooldown plus plus. It means cooldown equals cooldown plus 1. We're just increasing cooldown by 1. And then shoot is what's going to add bullets. So I'm going to say if cooldown equals threshold, then we're going to add a bullet. So objects, oh, I'll put a brace here actually. Objects.add new bullet. And you can define the bullet's direction however you want. I think default just going straight up makes sense to me. So we'll put in bullet. It's going to start at player 1x. Oops. Player 1.x. Player 1.y. Oh gosh, typing is hard. And the Vx is going to be 0, so it goes just straight up. -10 for the Vy, and true because it's a good guy bullet. And then we set cooldown to 0. So we're adding bullets with certain properties, and then cooldown gets set to 0. And then cooldown no longer will equal threshold, and we'll have to recharge until it gets back up to threshold so we can shoot again. You might wonder, what is the value of threshold and what is the value of cooldown? And in our abstract class, we're not going to specify that because we're not actually going to ever make a gun. This is just sort of the mechanics of making the guns work. When we go to actually make a type of gun, which we'll do right now, then that's when we'll specify that information. So let's go and make that basic gun. We had my gun equals new basic gun, right? So the basic gun is going to be what I imagine is the game, the gun that the game starts with. So it's going to be pretty junky. And so I'll make a class basic gun that extends gun. And the story with that is going to be that when we extend gun, then basic gun will get a cooldown and a threshold. It will get the recharge function and will get the shoot function. So I don't actually have to write recharge and shoot again. If I want to use those exact functions, then that's the way to do it. But I do have to write a constructor, and it's in the constructor where I will set the values of the threshold. So maybe I want threshold to equal 50. So it'll take 50 frames before I can shoot after I've shot once. Cooldown you can set to whatever you want. If you set it to 0, it'll take 50 frames before you can fire. If you set it to 50, then you can fire right away. So let's see. Does any of this stuff work? Let me just double check Starfighter to make sure that's good. We have a gun variable. We started off in the constructor as a basic gun, and when we press space, we will say mygun.shoot, and then every frame we are also recharging the gun. Let's find out. Let's run it. Oh, I got a mistake. Oh yeah. Woohoo. Cooldown equals threshold. Whoops. Double equals. That's the story there. Wah, wah. Okay, let's try again. Alright, here comes our spaceship, and check it out. Our crappy basic gun just fires one little bullet at a time, and it is bad. Like, I don't even think I could kill an enemy given the amount of time that I have for it to get down the screen. It's a pretty bad gun. So that's a good gun to start the game with. There's probably, your starting enemies will have 1 hit point and stuff, so you could probably still make it, but you're going to be motivated to go take risks to get a new kind of gun that doesn't suck so bad. So let's take a look at how we might make a new kind of gun. So if we wanted to say make a machine gun, then we could take the basic gun framework and just go down the row. Notice I'm putting these all in the same tab. Just keeps things kind of organized. I'm going to make a class called machine gun. It's also going to extend gun. I'm just going to have different properties. So machine gun constructor will set threshold to 10. And the cooldown will be 10. So then it'll only take 10 frames to recharge this gun. So in the machine gun, that's those properties, and again it gets its own shoot and recharge. So Starfighter now, if I said my gun equals new machine gun, then I'll start with a different kind of gun. It'll be the rapid fire gun. It might run. There we go, try again. Here we go. Hey! So now you can see we have a rapid fire machine gun. I might actually be able to kill these guys if I could ever get my spaceship to stay still. Or maybe just not, I don't know. Oh, well, but you can see how it's different. And what's great now, just to let you in on why we did all that work, is that if I want to switch my gun on the fly, I can just say equals new machine gun equals new basic gun. I could put that code in, say, the act function. If I press the 1 key or the 2 key, I can just say my gun equals new machine gun when I press the 1 key, and I'll get the machine gun. If I press the 2 key and I say my gun equals new shotgun, then I'll get that, and so on. So this one line of code will switch our guns, and in the constructor we just choose the initial gun. But later on, that's going to be something for you to work on, is that you're going to add in key presses to select different guns. Let's put in one more kind of gun, a slightly more sophisticated, in programming terms, kind of gun. So let's put in a shotgun. So shotguns in video games tend to be slow rate of fire, but they have a spread of bullets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a constructor that will have a slow rate of fire. So threshold is 50, cooldown is 50, and that's basically is exactly what our basic gun is. But our shotgun wants to shoot more bullets. It's going to shoot a whole bunch of bullets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to override the shoot function. So in shotgun, I'm going to make I guess I can't. I don't know if I can paste right now. Something's up with my MacBook Air here. I guess I'll use the old-fashioned technique. So what I'm going to do is override the shoot function in the shotgun class, which basically means write a new shoot function for this type of gun. And what it's going to do is fire a spread of bullets. So you basically, I can't cut and paste. just talk about that. I'm going to fire maybe 5 bullets, and the story with that is going to be that each bullet will have a slightly different VX, so that will get a spread going on. And shotguns are, I don't know anything about guns to be honest, but from video games I can tell you that it's a little bit random. So the VXs, I'd like to randomize a little bit. Actually, I think I might do this in a loop, but it doesn't really matter. You can just pick a bunch of random numbers, 5 random numbers, and go from there. And just kind of plug those in. I think it might be nice to do that in a loop, so we wouldn't have to make a whole bunch of different variables. So maybe I'll do this int I equals 0, while I is less than, we'll say 5, because I just randomly chose 5 for my number of bullets. I'll add in I plus at the end. I equals I plus 1 is what that means, so I go to the next one. So I've set up to make 5 bullets with this code, and what I'll do is I'll just pick a random number. I'll just make a variable here, a random number between -5 and +5, and I'll plug that into my VX. And so each time I make a bullet, it's going to have a random VX. So now when shotguns shoot, they will have 5 bullets that kind of come out in a spread, and that will be an interesting effect. So how do we get this to work? In Starfighter, all you gotta say is my gun equals new shotgun, and everything else will work. Isn't that elegant? Isn't that great? This is the whole reason we did all that extra work, is that with one line of code we can switch our guns. So if I run that, let's see if it actually works. I guess we should make sure. So I shoot, and I get this kind of spread effect. I shall move out of the way so you can see the spread. That spread of things going on. Still a kind of ineffective weapon against these mighty enemies with their 10 hit points. But you can see how that might be useful in context of the game where I can shoot at things and not be directly below them in the path of danger. But you know, these enemies are just too tough for a shotgun. So what I'd like everyone here to do is to, you know, do what I've done, but also make some other kinds of guns. You can totally steal a basic gun, machine gun, shotgun, but think about how you might alter this to make a new kind of gun, and we'll see how that's going. Also, I'd like you to add in the ability to select guns with key presses. So be able to press 1, 2, 3 to select basic gun, machine gun, shotgun, and that should work out nicely. All right, thanks everybody.